So, let me ask you all a question. What could be considered pandering? Well, that's a good question, right? Well, let's take a look at the definition of pandering, the simplest definition. The simplest definition is basically giving those what they want. Or in this case, when it comes to entertainment, giving the fan base what they want, giving them that fan service, those moments they want to see happen and expect to happen. And at most times, depending on who's running things behind the scenes, we get exactly what we expect. We as fans get the pandering we expect to see. But when is pandering enough? In other words, when is pandering not needed? Well, as I said before, it all depends on who's behind the scenes, who's the main person in charge. But sometimes pandering, when you think about it, is looked at as some form of a thank you, a love letter, if you will. And when you look at something that's coming to an end, sometimes pandering is a way of doing just that. Case in point, My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic just started its final season yesterday, which I did DVR the first 2 episodes, the first 2-parter, as well as I'm currently recording those DVR recordings onto a DVD, courtesy of my DVD recorder, and I'm basically doing, or once again restarting what I did last year, and that's try to dedicate 1, 2, maybe 3 discs to the entire season. But speaking of the last season of MLP, one debatable discussion that I saw someone at one of the message boards, as a matter of fact it was MLP forums, basically pointed out a tweet that they saw on Twitter from a fellow fan. This fellow fan, long story short, stated that if there's going to be pandering, that it should be very subtle. It should be very subtle pandering. Like if you want to give fans something, that's fine, but don't do it to the point that it's overkill, or don't constantly do it almost throughout the entire season, but do it in a way to where they know it's there, but it's very subtle. It's very low key and focused mainly on making the season a memorable one. Now, the member at the MLP forums responded by the fact that they agreed with what this one person on Twitter had to say. But they went on to ask, though, the rest of the community members at the message boards at the MLP forums, if it should be subtle, or should it just be, right then and there where we can see it happening. And the mixed reaction is very understandable. Or the mixed response, I should say, is very understandable. Some fans are in agreement that if we're going to have some pandering, it should be very subtle. While others have basically felt that if there's going to be pandering, what better time to pander to the fans than in the last season? And, as I said in my live stream, I'm kind of in favor of it. It is the last season. It is the last season. Do what you have to do to not only thank those behind the scenes for helping to contribute to the success of this series, but also send a thank you to the fans for supporting it as long as they have. So, in my personal opinion, if you know something's coming to an end, And you know that it's been the success it has been because of a fan base that you didn't expect to come out of nowhere, but did, then to me the best thing to do is to pander to that crowd, to that audience. And I will admit, you could have some subtle pandering here and there mixed in with the overall, you could see it as it happens pandering that could take place. I mean, you already got it with this premiere, with Fluttershy and Discord somewhat. You kind of got it, in a way, with Rarity and Spike in the 8.5, season 8.5 episode or special, Best Gift Ever. You got those subtle hints with Breakup Breakdown. You got an episode centered around them, and them going through different situations, but at the same time, in Meltdown, you had moments in the season 8 finale. Those right there could be looked at as being very subtle. What happened in Best Gift Ever is a way of saying, yeah, you're seeing it as it happens kind of pandering. But the rest could be looked at as being very, very subtle. However, the question is that still gets asked, and it is a very valid question, is should there be pandering in this last season? And like I said, I have no problem with it. I mean, you have a fan base that's been supportive of the series since it started. It's helped it become the pop culture phenomenon that it is today, and basically break down so many barriers that not even Lauren Faust expected it to do as much as it did. So yeah, I would definitely say that if you're going to have an opportunity to really panderize to the fans, to a fan base that supported your franchise for as long as it has and has helped make it the success it is today, then its final season is probably the best way of doing it. And there are countless examples when you look through all kinds of multimedia and entertainment. There's so many examples out there of pandering to fans. And sometimes the pandering works out in the end. Now, does some of the pandering backfire? Absolutely. And they have to retcon it. But most of the time, the pandering does work. So the question, though, is, and it's presented to all of you out there, just like this one fan of the MLP forums and this one person at Twitter asked, should pandering be allowed in the final season? Or should we get pandering, should basically the creative staff behind the scenes pander to the fans openly or subtly in this last season? Again, we've already got hints of it last year with Rarity and Spike, Sparity, if you will, whether you agree with it, whether you like that ship or you don't. We've been getting it last year and even in this premiere with Fluttershy and Discord. I mean, we're getting back characters that we didn't think were going to come back. We got Sombra back, even though, he's technically on the sidelines. We got the villain team up we've been waiting for, and the head villain that's behind it being revealed as the one that brought them all together. Like I said, we're getting characters back like Quibble Pants, Cheese Sandwich later on in the season. We're finally getting Celestia and Luna doing something and even acknowledging they enjoyed doing something more than just sitting around and doing this or that. We got all these moments already and more to come. Heck, we even have shipping teased, as I mentioned in my live stream. We have shipping teased for an upcoming episode, She's All Yak. A ship, and that ship is between Sandbar and Yona. 2 members of the Student Six, essentially co-main cast members, or co-main stars, if you will. And on top of that, you have Rarity being involved, which kind of basically says you could get some Sparity thrown in there as well. The point is, even though creative staff sees that this being the last season, they need to give back to the fans, and they're already doing that. But should it continue? Should we get pandering up front? Should we get pandering up front where we could see it? Should we get it very subtly, or should we get a mix of it? A very subtle. What I'm saying is, should we get a mixture of it? Should we get half up front and half subtle? It's a good question. That is a good question, and that is a question we need answered, or we would like to have answered. My personal opinion, and Nicole Dubuque, Josh Haber, if you're listening, my personal opinion, if you guys are going to pander, along with the lady writers, Joanne and Christine, and many others, if you're going to pander to the fans, I say do it. This is the last season. Give the fans what they want. You're already hinting at the fact that you're going to do that anyway. But if you feel the need that maybe some fans are pointing out that you need to subtleize it, be very subtle about it, I should say, very subtle about it, you want to be, with the pandering, then maybe if you want to go the subtle route with pandering, go ahead. You want to mix them together, like I said, go ahead. But my personal opinion is this is probably the best time to do it. And they know it. They know it. The creative staff knows that. So with that said, I do pose this same question that Rouge the Great, that's the person on Twitter, asked on their Twitter account, as well as Nightmare Muffins over the MLP forums, posed. Should we get pandering up front, or should it be subtle with this last season of MLP? Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you on this, and I will talk to y'all later.